I tried living with this 20-year-old iMac G3 for a week. Is the experience as bad as you might be expecting? Let's find out. Just to let you know, TechMW has a newly founded Discord server and we are looking for members to join the community, so please feel free to join. A link is in the description below. In my previous video, I covered the basics of this old Mac, but I left a lot of details out so I could make this video. To make it clear, this iMac G3 replaced every laptop and desktop I own for a week. That meant I couldn't use my main PC for anything, including gaming, and I had to put my MacBook Pro away. You might be surprised to learn that I actually use an iMac on my desk all the time for everything that isn't gaming related, despite having my PC. This is mostly due to the lower power consumption, but I also just prefer using macOS for everything that isn't gaming. This one in particular is a mid-2011 21.5 inch version, powered by a 2.5 GHz i5 with 16 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD. For graphics, it has an AMD Radeon 6750M with 512 MB of dedicated VRAM. So, to start the challenge, I took my trusty iMac away and replaced it with the G3. I'm still using my newer Apple keyboard, but I can't use my Magic Mouse because this iMac has no Bluetooth, so I went for my Apple Mighty Mouse instead. Let's find out how much of a downgrade this is. Putting the list of specs next to each other, it's clear I might have some problems here. I'm going from a quad-core i5 to a single-core G3, running at a quarter of the speed. On paper, it looks like the G3 is 1/16 as fast, but that's actually not the case. The core count and clock speeds alone don't account for the evolution in technology. So the G3 is actually a lot slower in comparison than you might think. My main iMac also has 64 times the RAM, and the SSD makes it a heck of a lot faster to open apps than the 10GB hard drive in the G3. This is not going to be fun. I'll go into more detail about the graphics when I get to the gaming part. To make things more simple, I've divided this challenge into 5 categories, to represent some of the things I usually do in a week. Those are internet browsing or emails, watching videos, office stuff including script writing and voice recording, gaming, and video editing. I don't necessarily do gaming or video editing on the Mac, that's mostly my PC, but as it's replacing my PC too, I've thrown them in anyway. Day 1. I had things set up the night before, and when I woke up I suddenly remembered I'd got myself into this. I was not happy with myself. Regardless, I turned on the Mac and went to check my YouTube analytics like I always do on the newer iMac. I keep an eye on both this channel and AMW Productions, which is my filmmaking channel, so it's always good to use the analytics feature built into YouTube. As mentioned in my previous video, 10.4 Fox is an amazing new browser built for PowerPC Macs. However, this Mac, being further down in the speed list of PowerPC Macs, does not do anything like this quickly at all. This process took a long time. The macOS installation was almost completely fresh, so I didn't have any accounts loaded for YouTube or any other sites. I had to go through the long process of trying to log into YouTube before I could check anything. Unfortunately, due to the new security from Google, I wasn't able to get the login to work, leaving me stuck outside my accounts. The only thing I could do was find the videos individually and see how many views they had. I could view new comments, but couldn't react or reply to them. Day 2. I wanted to check my emails, but remembered that due to problems in modern Google security, I wouldn't be able to log into Gmail. Instead, I tried using the inbuilt mail application. This did not go well. For over half an hour, I was faffing around in the settings trying to get the security to work. It didn't. At this point, I lost it. Day 3. Time to sit back and relax while watching some YouTube videos. By putting 10.4 Fox into Apple iPad mode, websites load a lot more easily, as it's loading the mobile version of every website instead of the full version. After a bit of waiting, I was able to get to the video pages just fine, but the best I could get out of the videos was a choppy, audible mess, with the video being displayed in negative frames a second. Then I thought, what about a DVD? At which point I remembered this Mac only had a CD drive, which was also broken because of the prior shipping damage. But USB was a valid option. While it's slow on this machine, with a peak speed of 1.5 megabytes a second, you could theoretically still copy it and watch it. This did work, and I was able to watch the trailer to my own film just fine. This was the first really good thing to happen, so my mood was great going into the next day. Day 4. I obviously make videos which involve script writing and recording voiceovers. To write the scripts on my main iMac, I use the Apple Pages app. Unfortunately, the App Store won't be a thing for another 4 years on this version. However, I do have a DVD of iWork 09, which works with this version of macOS. It has an old version of Pages, as well as Numbers and Keynote. Together, they are basically Apple's version of Microsoft Office. While I won't be able to use the DVD, I do have a USB containing a copy of the installer in my drawer. Using this, I was perfectly able to install the apps no problem. Then I could get to script writing. Pages worked absolutely fine as it's a fairly light piece of software. For voiceovers, I always use Audacity on my main iMac. Fortunately, their website still hosts really old versions of the software, some of which are compatible with PowerPC. I was able to download and install Audacity no problem. Surprisingly, the G3 had no issues detecting my Blue Yeti microphone, and I was able to record voiceovers as I do on my main iMac. However, I was curious about the audio quality of the internal microphone. Day 5. This section of audio was recorded completely using the iMac G3's inbuilt microphone. Now, it's time for some video editing. I have a DVD of iLife 09 which includes iMovie, but unfortunately this G3 doesn't meet the minimum requirements to run it. However, I have a few install CDs for some older macOS releases, some of which have an iMovie installer built in. Copying the installer to a USB, I managed to get an old version of iMovie running on the Mac. From here, I can copy some clips off the DSLR's SD card and get it to work. All I wanted was to make a montage with some background music. Here's the final result of the hard work. You'll have to excuse me if I start tearing up about how beautiful of a production it is. You can really see how it could replace my PC as my main editing rig. The final thing to do is try some gaming. I did briefly cover this in my previous video. This G3 has an ATI Rage 128 Pro running the display with 8MB of VRAM. I'll be trying the PowerPC edition of Minecraft first. This is a special edition of Minecraft that has been compiled to run on PowerPC machines. As seen in my previous video, a super flat world will sort of work at less than 1 frame a second, but there is another edition that may work better. CubeCraft has also been compiled to run on PowerPC machines. This is based on a much older version of Minecraft, meaning it's a lot more basic and should be easier to run. It gets to the home screen no problem, and it does seem to be more smooth already. When loading into the world, I can actually move around. It runs. Sort of okay. This is definitely more playable, and I can actually build stuff. However, there is one more game I want to try. That game is Halo Combat Evolved. The demo version is easily accessible to download online. This unfortunately didn't run quite so well. Even at the lowest resolution, it's a less than playable experience, but I suppose it's somewhat impressive that it's running at all. Day 7. I spent this day to contemplate what I had achieved over the last 6 days. I had completed a script with no issues, edited a video and played a few games on a computer that cost me nothing. All that being said, I was missing my 2011 iMac as well as my PC, and I couldn't wait to get them back. It really shows how far technology has come. In 2010, I'm sure this computer would have been similarly difficult to use as Apple dropped the PowerPC platform altogether at around this time. Compare that to my main iMac. It's 12 years old and has more RAM and faster storage than most generic desktops today. The only things holding it back are definitely the graphics, and the CPU is getting on a bit. It can still do everything I need it to though. This experience has also showed me that the concept of living with something old for a week is actually quite an adventure. So you'll definitely be seeing more of these videos soon. As for the iMac, it definitely holds a much more significant place for me now, as it powered my digital life for a week. These old machines are always to be respected.